Death is the price we all pay for life. Eventually, we all meet the Grim Reaper. Waking up in the morning is a blessing. Having a shower, shit and a shave should be seen as the precursor for making the most of each and every day you are breathing. Do you say I love you enough? Are you kind and give back to the world? Do you chase down your dreams? Or do you reluctantly wake up with no purpose? Groundhog Day, wishing away your life, moaning at your first world problems. Until one day, it's too late. My own life seems to be an assortment of balancing professional and family life. Health and fitness, while squeezing in a bit of YouTubing to expand my creative juices. The latter has been my key personal challenge in the last 6 months or so, with my channel transitioning a few times. Starting out focused on travelling for triathlon, which moved towards just travel, as I realised I wouldn't race enough to create content. Before dialing into exploring lesser known and abandoned places within Scotland. And now, I think I've landed on my niche, or niche if you're American. If Carlsberg did YouTube channels about painting abandoned places, it would probably be the best. Only YouTube channel about painting abandoned places in the world. Naturally, you might be wondering how the hell I ended up here filming at Carriden churchyard, painting this seemingly random abandoned church. There is a story. Returning home from the motor museum from a father-daughter day out, my daughter spotted and demanded to see the castle we were passing. She's only 2. She associates all old buildings as castles, and castles with her father, as she's seen and enjoyed some of my videos. She's one of the few. So, she's gained a fascination of old buildings herself. In we went, without purpose, no filming, just to explore, but I added the location to my to-do list on Google. So when I found myself with a spare few hours one day, I decided to paint. But where? So I pulled out a map and I plonked my finger on the nearest abandoned building. Okay, not a paper map, a Google map. But modernism hasn't got the same romanticism. There's something incredibly peaceful yet unnerving about being in a graveyard, and that juxtaposition is what provides a great recipe for art. A sombre place to get out the watercolours and paint. It's an atmospheric scene without the disturbance of people. I didn't see a soul, not a living one, at least. I imagine that the bell tower once upon a time would have rang out manually, pulled by the delegated hand of God. Not Maradona, but the resident priests throughout the 18th and 19th centuries, rang out loud to the surrounding parishioners. A wooden spiral staircase would have led from the base. I can almost see the footsteps up to the tower shaft, to the belfry, which now of course is just a ghostly shell, but with a unique view. The Gothic T-plan floor-shaped church was built around 1766. It had a relatively short existence before being replaced by a larger church for a growing congregation, just across the small woodland at the start of the 20th century.
So this church here is the church that replaced the abandoned church. And that abandoned church replaced another abandoned church. And the reason we know that is because they found a cross from the 9th century.
The abandoned building has been gutted of its internal organs, both metaphorically and literally. The organ probably went with the bell and other precious artefacts to be housed in the new church. It was decided the old church would be left as a picturesque ruin, but it's lost its protection of cover. The age-old story of removing the roof for tax avoidance measures that we see time and time again throughout Great Britain. A mystifying rule that benefits absolutely no one, turning abandoned architecturally important buildings into crumbled ruins, open to the elements as nature invades and reclaims. Of course, the surrounding graveyard remains. Even the ruin has been repurposed as a graveyard, with burial space an absolute premium these days, just like all land. Even in death, money matters.
So there's no getting away from. It's absolutely freezing since I've entered here. I felt like I saw like a white woman behind that wall, I guess. Is that a wall? I'm not sure if it's a door or a wall. It's bricked up anyway, but with a hole for it. And just as I felt cold, I just seen a butterfly just come out at me. So that was a bit strange. But that was quite a spooky feeling coming in here. Some fairly recent gravestones. Born in this parish in 1900. It's a bit of a tight squeeze in here and you feel like you're stepping on the gravestones, so I'm not going to spend too long in here.
Interestingly, there are some celebrated graves situated within the grounds. I like the story of Dr John Roebuck, an English inventor and engineer who is buried in Scotland. He had a part to play in the development of the steam engine, providing Watts with financial backing, and built Watts a cottage in the nearby Canal House. Now, the reason for giving him housing was to prevent the design from being a victim of espionage, so he could keep Watt close by. Roebuck owned 2/3 of the invention until he sold off his share to pay off debts of £1,200. Roebuck was involved in coal mining, and he was responsible for developing the industrial scale manufacturing of sulphuric acid. Of course, it wouldn't be a graveyard video without a true tale about mortality. Roebuck moved on to iron manufacturing, but this came to an abrupt end following a tragic event in 1771. According to the Caledonian Mercury newspaper, Saturday 19th of October 1771, Wednesday night, Ebeneezer Roebuck Esquire of London, a partner of the Carriden Company and brother to Dr John Roebuck, unfortunately lost his life at Carriden Works by a piece of cast iron 2.5 tons in weight falling upon him. Jesus Christ, excuse my blasphemy.
Cheer up, Brian. You know what they say? Some things in life are bad. Other things just make you swear and curse.
You'll also find the grave of Sir James Hope, a Royal Navy captain who fought in many battles. The Battle of Vuelta de Obligado, the Uruguayan Civil War, in the Crimean War, and I particularly like this story about the Battle of the Taku Forts, where he assembled a squadron of 11 gunboats and some other vessels. He led an assault on the forts at the mouth of the river in the resumption of the Second Opium War, in a day where we didn't battle over oil, but opium. However, the forts had been strengthened, and the squadron encountered firm resistance from the Chinese defender, so Hope was forced to retreat with his tail between his legs. He ended his career as Admiral of the Fleet, that's pretty high up in the Royal Navy, dying at his home in June 1881 in Carriden House. Within the graves is an interesting feature. Carrying on the theme of Sir James Hope, these large chains hold a symbolic meaning. They're the chains of an anchor. Now, this church is positioned on the Firth of Forth, Edinburgh's river, and therefore the parochial church to many sailors. But often these sailors would dock up late due to battling the seas. So in design, the church had a secret side door leading up to a loft, allowing the sailors to sneak in without disturbing a already underway service. Perhaps not only the sound of footsteps, but also the smell of fish, assuming some were fishermen. As an artist, I see an opportunity to preserve a building in its current state. It's quite romantic in that sense, documenting this building in my own style on paper, before the passing of time continues to ravage and savage it further. In turn, perhaps that painting will somehow preserve me, when I too am just ashes in the ground.
It's the one thing as an artist, are you ever truly happy? The birds have enjoyed me painting today though, I'll say that for something. Haven't seen any ghosts wandering the graveyard though. Did have that sort of white lady moment, but I've not had that vibe since, so she's not followed me out of, oh my goodness. If a white lady walked behind me as I was talking there, I won't be surprised on the footage. My God, it just got cold, my arms are, hair's sticking up on my arms. Well, I'm not sure if I'm happy about that, but love it or hate it, that's art.
I hope you enjoyed this video. It was something a bit different from me. Catch you on the next one. Cheers.